Okay, so here are my Hoka Speedgoats, and today we're going to talk about how to fix the narrow toe box problem. So, let me explain first. There's a couple of ingredients you need, this being one of them. 2 Toms Sport Shield, prevents chafing and blisters. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the lacing system. So, those of you who have the Hoka Speedgoats will know that when you run down a hill, especially a steep hill or down some stairs, as with all shoes, your foot is basically forced to the front of the shoe, and there's a lot of pressure put on the toe area. In the Hoka Speedgoats, this seems to be a lot worse. And reading on the internet, you can see that many people suffer with toe problems in the Hoka Speedgoats because the toe box here is extremely narrow. Now, I read all of these reviews before I bought these, and I thought, well, there's so many good points about these shoes, perhaps I will be okay. I mean, I have very normal feet, so I thought perhaps I'd be fine, but I was not to come away from my first run unscathed, unfortunately. My first run was 20 k's to try and about 12 miles to try and just wear the shoes in, and it certainly rubbed me here along the outside of my foot and my small toe. Fortunately no blisters, but it was pretty uncomfortable, and I would not like to have run a longer distance in those. Anyway, my wife and I came up with a couple of options on how to fix this. And the first one is the lacing system. Now, as you know, the way to stop your foot from moving forward in the shoe is to lace the shoes up pretty tightly at the top. So if your feet are tightly laced into the shoes up here, it's very difficult for the foot to move forward, and therefore there'll be less pressure on the toes. The problem is that when you tighten your laces here, of course, it tightens all of the lace along the whole shoe, which includes this section here. And when this section here gets tightened together, it puts an awful lot of pressure on the toe box area. So the first idea we came up with was not to lace these bottom holes here. Keep them open, so that basically there is no pressure on the toe box down here, but you can still lace these up as tight as you like. And in fact, you can even thread the laces through here and get an even tighter fit from the top, stopping your foot from being pushed down into the toe box. And this is, of course, releasing the pressure on the toe box altogether. The second thing we came up with was to try and expand the shoes laterally. And I recall when I was younger and I had a pair of, let's say, school shoes that were too tight, my mom would always say, put some wet newspaper inside them, and that would sort of stretch them. Well, I thought I probably need something a little bit better than wet newspaper, so I came up with the 2 Toms chafing and blister prevention. But actually what we need is the container itself, not really what's inside it. And you'll notice that the width of the shoe is roughly equivalent to the size of the container. So if you have a bigger or smaller shoe, you can find a container that is either a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. And what I do is I shove the container into the shoe to force out these 2 parts of the shoe. So you can see here, as I push it in, I want to get the container to pretty much sit here, and then I just push the other side up. Now, I wasn't too cared about damaging my Hokas, because to be honest with you, my next option was I was just going to simply cut a hole right out here to stop there being any sort of pressure on the side of my foot. So what we do is we push the container in and we force it to be laterally expanded over here, and every time that I complete a run, I basically shove these back in and it just expands them a little bit on the sides here. I can tell you that the difference is huge. I ran a 54k race last week or the week before. That's about 31 or 32 miles. Lots of hills, lots of uphill, lots of downhill, and as you know, it's the downhill that really is the problem in these shoes. And I had no problems whatsoever, not even a pink little toe. There was no rubbing, no chafing. It really was magnificent. I would still say these are not as comfortable as other shoes, running shoes that I own. From a fit perspective, but you know, the huge benefits you get from the Hokas, the amazing grip from the sole, the cushioning, the fact that you can run over almost anything, whether it's sharp rocks, whatever it might be, and you just don't feel it coming through. These are a fantastic pair of shoes. Unfortunately, they're only made to fit about 10% of the population. Most other people are going to have problems, but we found that these two ways here seem to make an awful lot of difference. Anyway, I hope it works for you as well as it's worked for us, and that you get a lot of mileage out of what is otherwise a great pair of shoes.